In a quiet little town, where modern life had forgotten the value of silence and stillness, lived an old man named Elias. He was a clockmaker by profession, but to those who truly knew him, he was more than that. He was a guardian of time and wisdom. While the rest of the world raced ahead, chasing success, speed, and technology, Elias continued to fix clocks in his small wooden shop, where time seemed to move differently, slower, softer, and with purpose. One rainy afternoon, a young boy named Jordan entered his shop. His shoulders were heavy with the burdens of teenage life, school pressures, family struggles, and the silent war of not knowing who he was or what he wanted to become. He placed a broken wristwatch on Elias's counter and asked, almost without hope, "Can you fix this?" Elias looked at the watch and then at the boy, sensing that it wasn't just the watch that was broken. It was the boy's spirit too. Rather than simply repairing the watch, Elias invited Jordan to sit with him and watch the process. Over time, the boy kept returning, slowly absorbing Elias's quiet wisdom. The old man taught him that life, like a clock, works through tiny, often unseen parts. A single gear might look insignificant, but it keeps everything else moving. He explained that small actions, waking up early, helping at home, practicing kindness, might feel meaningless at first, but they are the gears that build a meaningful life. As weeks passed, Jordan started to change. He began attending school regularly, supporting his mother, and even writing down his thoughts every night. Inspired by the clockmaker's lessons, he began seeing time not as an enemy, but as an ally. One day, he returned to the shop, holding an acceptance letter to college, the first in his family to receive one. Elias smiled and handed him the fixed watch. "It's ready," he said. "So are you." Years later, Jordan would become a teacher and share Elias's lessons with hundreds of students. And though the clockmaker had long passed, his shop still stood, filled with ticking clocks, each one a soft echo of a man who once turned broken minutes into meaningful moments. In a world where everything moves too fast, people often forget the meaning of time and purpose. That's why the story of Elias, the clockmaker, and Jordan, the lost teenager, holds such power. Their lives cross paths not by accident, but perhaps by deeper design, a moment when one life full of experience meets another life just beginning. Elias spent his days repairing old clocks in a dusty little shop that most people walked past without noticing. He wasn't rich, and he didn't speak much, but he carried a quiet wisdom that could change lives. When Jordan first walked into that shop, he wasn't looking for wisdom. He was just looking for a quick fix. His wristwatch was broken, much like his self-belief. Struggling in school, feeling like a failure, and uncertain of his future, Jordan didn't realize he was walking into more than a repair shop. Elias didn't just offer to fix the watch. He offered him patience, attention, and something far more valuable, guidance. Through simple words and long silences, Elias taught him that purpose isn't something you find all at once. It's something you build piece by piece like the tiny gears inside a clock. Day after day, Jordan sat beside the old man, watching how he worked, listening to the soft ticking of time. Elias showed him that everything, no matter how small, has a purpose, even the parts people often overlook. Jordan began to see himself differently. He started waking up with intention, helping his mother at home, and giving real effort at school. Slowly, the fear and confusion faded, replaced by a growing sense of who he might become. When the watch was finally fixed, Elias handed it to Jordan not just as a piece of time restored, but as a symbol of everything he had learned. That single object now represented patience, discipline, and the value of steady growth. Years later, Jordan would still wear that watch, not for style, but to remember the man who taught him that when you live with purpose, even the smallest second can hold great meaning. It was never about fixing the watch. It was always about helping someone learn how to make their time matter. Jordan was just another teenager trying to make it through life. Headphones on, grades slipping, and confidence shattered. He came from a single-parent home, where his mother worked long hours just to keep the lights on. Every day felt like a weight he couldn't carry. He didn't know where he was going, and worse, he didn't think it mattered. One day, Seeking shelter from the rain, he wandered into a small clock shop at the edge of town. It was quiet inside, filled with the ticking of 100 old clocks, all moving at different rhythms. Behind the counter sat an elderly man named Elias, the town's forgotten clockmaker. Elias was the kind of man people didn't pay much attention to anymore. He spoke slowly, dressed simply, and seemed to live in a world the rest of society had moved on from. But when he looked at Jordan, he didn't see a failure. He saw a story still being written. Jordan handed him a broken wristwatch and asked if it could be fixed. Elias nodded, but instead of giving him a return date, he invited Jordan to come back and learn how the repair would be done. That's how it began. Jordan started returning to the shop after school. At first, he barely spoke, just watched Elias work. But something about the calm atmosphere and the old man's steady hands made him feel safe, like time wasn't something chasing him anymore. Elias began to teach him how to clean gears, reset springs, and understand the delicate balance each clock required to run smoothly. Along the way, he shared quiet lessons about life, how even small pieces have purpose, how patience often outlasts talent, and how silence can teach more than noise ever will. Over the weeks, Jordan's life began to shift. He started sleeping better, studying harder, and caring more. One afternoon, Elias handed him back the fully repaired wristwatch. It was working perfectly again. Jordan smiled, not because the watch was fixed, but because he finally felt like he was too. That broken, hopeless boy had become someone who understood value, not just of time, but of himself. Elias had given him far more than a working timepiece. He had given him clarity, confidence, and a sense of direction. And in doing so, he changed Jordan's life forever. There was a time when Jordan felt completely lost. At just 17, life already felt too heavy. His father had left years ago, and his mother worked 2 jobs just to cover rent. School felt meaningless, and no one really noticed when his grades began to drop or when he stopped trying. He spent most of his days with headphones in, blocking out the world, drowning in music and silence. Everyone told him to figure it out, but no one ever told him how. He wasn't lazy, just directionless, tired, and invisible. He had talent, but no one had ever helped him believe in it. One afternoon, caught in the rain, he stepped into a small, forgotten clock shop. He wasn't there for meaning, just shelter. Inside, the air smelled like old wood and brass polish. Hundreds of clocks ticked in uneven rhythm, and behind the counter sat an elderly man named Elias. His hands were worn, his eyes quiet, but his presence was strangely comforting. When Jordan showed him a broken wristwatch, Elias didn't just nod. He looked at the boy, truly looked, and saw something more than a customer. He saw someone searching. Over the next few weeks, Jordan kept coming back, not just to get the watch fixed, but because the shop felt like a space where time slowed down and life didn't feel like a race. Elias never lectured him. He simply let him sit, listen to the clocks, and watch the careful repairs being done. Bit by bit, the boy who felt invisible began to feel seen. Elias explained that every tiny gear in a clock mattered. Even the smallest part had a job. It's the same with people, he said one day. Even when you feel useless, you're part of something bigger. You just haven't found where you fit yet. That idea stayed with Jordan. Slowly, he started changing. He began showing up to school, turning in assignments, helping his mom at home, and even talking to his teachers about college. For the first time in years, he saw a future he wanted to be part of. Elias didn't fix him with speeches or lectures. He fixed him by showing that broken doesn't mean useless, it just means not finished. And that 1 hour a day in the clock shop was all it took to change the entire direction of his life. Jordan had always struggled with patience. Like most teenagers, he wanted fast answers, quick results, and instant success. But nothing in his life ever seemed to move that way. His father had left when he was young, and his mother barely had time to speak to him between her 2 jobs. At school, he felt like a background character, never the smartest, never the most athletic, and never really noticed. He often wondered if life would always be this way, slow, stuck, and uncertain. He didn't realize that sometimes the greatest change happens slowly, one moment at a time. One day his old wristwatch broke. It was a gift from his grandfather, and although it wasn't valuable, it meant something to him. Hoping to get it repaired, he stumbled upon a small clock shop at the edge of town. The place felt like it belonged to another century. Wooden shelves filled with old clocks, all ticking at their own quiet pace. Behind the counter sat Elias, an elderly clockmaker with kind eyes and a calm smile. When Jordan asked if the watch could be fixed, Elias nodded. "But it'll take some time," he said. Instead of walking away, Jordan kept returning to the shop. Each visit, Elias let him watch the delicate process of repairing gears, adjusting springs, and testing balance. Jordan couldn't believe how much effort went into fixing something so small. He asked Elias why he didn't just replace the parts or throw the watch away. Elias replied, "Because time is not about speed. It's about care. It's about doing things the right way, not the fast way." Those words stayed with Jordan. Slowly, he began to understand that his own life didn't need to be rushed. Every small effort he made, studying a little harder, helping his mom, getting up earlier, was like one tiny gear in a bigger system. And if he kept at it, eventually everything would fall into place. Weeks later, Elias returned the watch, good as new. But something had changed in Jordan too. He had learned that patience was not weakness, it was strength. That real progress isn't always visible at first. And that the quiet seconds, the ones everyone ignores, often hold the most powerful lessons. Life didn't need to be perfect right away. It just needed to keep moving, one small turn at a time. Jordan was never the type of person who thought much about self-improvement. For most of his life, he felt like he was just surviving, not really living. His days were filled with noise, school, stress, expectations, and he felt like he was falling behind everyone else. While other kids seemed to have goals, plans, or at least confidence, Jordan drifted through life unsure of what he was meant to do. Deep down, he believed there was something more inside him, but he had no idea how to bring it out. That all began to change the day he wandered into a small clock shop on the edge of town. The shop was nothing special from the outside. Inside, however, was a world of soft ticking sounds, polished wood, and rows of clocks, some huge and antique, others tiny and modern. Behind the counter was Elias, a soft-spoken clockmaker with a calming presence. When Jordan showed him his broken watch and asked if it could be fixed, Elias looked at it and smiled. "Yes," he said, "but more importantly, let's see what else we can repair while we're at it." Jordan didn't understand what he meant at first, but as the days passed and he kept returning, the message became clear. Elias didn't just repair clocks. He restored belief, slowly, gently, and with purpose. As Jordan watched him work, Elias would drop small lessons. "Every gear matters," he once said. "Even the smallest piece keeps everything moving." That simple idea planted something in Jordan's heart. He started to change, not in huge, dramatic ways, but in small daily decisions. He woke up earlier. He helped his mother more. He studied when he didn't feel like it. He even stopped skipping class. He started reading books about growth, listening to motivational podcasts, and journaling every night. The broken boy who once felt invisible was slowly rebuilding himself, just like the old watch on Elias's desk. When the watch was finally returned, it was running perfectly. But more importantly, so was Jordan's mindset. He had learned that self-improvement doesn't require a loud start or a big breakthrough. Sometimes, all it takes is showing up, listening, and doing the next small right thing. And just like that, Jordan's life began to tick with purpose. Not all at once, but exactly as it was meant to,